Hey everyone, and welcome to the OklaRoots YouTube channel. In today's tutorial, we're going over one of the quickest, easiest, cutest little projects that I've ever put together. This is a definite beginner-friendly pattern. It's also great for any of you guys who want to have a little bit of fun with some quilting. And it's something that you can customize. And it has no zipper. It has no zipper. Let me just show you. Today, we are making the kitty, and this comes to us from Sallie Tomato Patterns. Now, look how cute this is. This is a going out bag. This is a party bag. This is such a cute little bag. We have a metal chain. This material, everything you see here, is also part of the monthly kit. So the OklaRoots Sallie Tomato monthly mystery box. This is the box for the month of September. And it is super beginner friendly. I'm talking like beginner friendly. You've never sewn a zipper? That's fine, you don't have to. You've never sewn anything? That's fine, you don't have to. Like, you can sew this as your very first bag. There's very little work, and there's no straps, there's no zippers, there's nothing complicated. It's so cute. Let me just walk you through it. So with these front and back panels, you can get really creative. You can create like a checkerboard look here. You can do strips like I did. You can do a whole quilt pattern. I mean, you can really just like design your own quilt pattern from the front and the back. There is a foam interfacing, so it's nice and structured and soft and easy to wear. Also, you see the top here. It's like, well, if it doesn't have a zipper, like how is it staying closed? Let me just show you. It has a fancy piece of hardware. It's like a metal bar. You can't see, there's like on the sides over here. It's like this metal snap bar. So you see when you open it up, it snaps right shut. So it will hold your stuff. You can put stuff in it and then set your bag down on the chair, you know, and put it on its side and everything's not gonna fall out. And also this month we're using a metal bag chain, which makes me so happy because if you know me, you know, I'm usually pretty tired by the time it's time to make a strap, and so this is just, you just clip it on the inside. Also, the strap is completely optional. If you're like, no, I don't want to wear this across my shoulder. I want to wear this as a clutch. Like, I want to just walk around holding it like this. Then do that. You don't even have to include any of the materials or anything like that for the strap. So as you can see, it is very, very basic. There's nothing like extra on the outside. If you want to add pockets to the outside, go for it. If you want to get fancy, go for it. On the inside, we do have one slip pocket, which is completely optional. I, however, do love at least one pocket in the lining just to hold my phone, and this one is big enough to put your phone in it. Now let me just show you what this looks like on. Now this is a chain strap, which means it's not adjustable. So I am 5 feet 4 inches, which is kind of short, and you can see it does hang a little low on me. I usually have my bags a little bit higher. I do believe you can probably modify this strap in some sort of a way so you can wear it higher, or you can just use a shorter strap. So for example, I want to show you this other bag I made when I was testing out the pattern. Now this bag does not have the metal closure on it because I only have one, so I had to use it for this one here. So I only have one of those metal closures. So this is what you can see. If you didn't have the metal closure, it will not stay shut. It'll just open up like this. So this is one of those tools that I really do suggest you grab and try out, because this is a tool you can use in a lot of other patterns as well and have a lot of fun with. But you can see this strap here is this fun like acrylic chunky strap, and this is more of just high up on your, above your waist shoulder bag. So thank you so much to Sallie Tomato Patterns for not only sponsoring today's video, but also for allowing me to use your patterns on the channel. Like I've said before, every month, really, Sallie Tomato Patterns are really written for the beginner in mind. Some of them can look very involved. And just because they take a little bit longer doesn't mean that they're not beginner friendly. However, it's kind of like the base, you know, like if you want to have an adorable bag that turns out like this and is quick and easy, you have it. However, if you're like, I want to add one of those fancy pockets with like the trim around it, and I want to add like some credit card slots in here, you can do that too. You don't have to keep it super basic. This is just like your foundation. You can add to this as much as you want. I am also really interested in trying this bag with like some leather. I think this is a leather bag, would look so cute. Maybe I'll get the industrial machine oiled up and ready again, because I do want to try this with leather. So if you're new to the OklaRoots YouTube channel, please consider clicking subscribe down below. If at any point you like this video, please give it a like. Any questions, comments, shoutouts, anything of all, leave them down in the comment section. Is there a specific Sallie Tomato bag pattern you'd really like to see? Let me know. Is there a bag pattern you'd really like to see in the Sallie Tomato OklaRoots monthly mystery box? Let me know about that too. We're always looking for patterns. Obviously we love Sallie Tomato patterns, but we're also looking for patterns from other designers, and we do have a couple of those coming up in the next few months. So if you're interested in checking out this monthly subscription box, I will have a link down in the description below. All right, guys, let's get started. This is so quick. It's so fun and easy. So for this pattern, you're gonna need about a 1/4 yard of woven material, which is what we're using today. And this is the ultimate like scrappy bag. You can just use lots and lots of scraps. Now, if you want a fussy cut so that all of your little pieces you put together have a very specific image in all of them, go ahead and do that. But my personal preference in the way that we're doing it in the box this month for the Sallie Tomato Mystery Monthly box is scrappy, 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 which is so much fun because even though it's scraps, it still looks really cool when it all comes together. So this is all my exterior. I'm using scraps for the front and back panel. I'm using scraps for the top panel, which is really cute. Lots of fun colors. For the lining, you're also going to need about a 1/4 yard of material. And so I already have everything cut up, and we're going to go through these pattern pieces in just a moment. For your interfacing, you're going to need about 3/4 yard of woven interfacing. Probably less than that, honestly, but it's always good to have more woven interfacing than you need. And then optional, but really makes it nice, is using a sew-in foam. For this, you're going to need about a 1/4 yard of foam. It does give the bag really, really nice structure. If you didn't want to use foam, Decovil Light would also provide some really nice structure. So the hardware for this is pretty fun. This is a new tool to me. This is a 12-inch flex frame. And the way you do this, it actually completely replaces the need for a zipper, which is really, really cool. And it's so easy to install. But you see, it kind of like flexes out like that, snaps back together. With this, there is a teeny tiny little tiny metal bar right here. Don't lose that. If you lose that, you're going to be so sad. You need that. So don't lose the little itty bitty bar that goes with it. We also have a couple of 1/2-inch D-rings. And then we also have a bag chain. This is a 47-inch long bag chain. And you see, this is probably like the easiest crossbody we've ever made. Just a simple chain. Don't even have to make a strap. Don't have to use a zipper. I mean, it's a very, very simple pattern. So I hope you're excited about this. All right, so there's not a whole lot of other stuff today, honestly. There's really not a lot you need for this bag. Clips, as always. You could use pins as well. For my top threads, this is the thread that goes through the needle. I'm using a Tex 35 weight thread. For the bobbin thread today, I'm actually going to use this Mara 100 weight thread. Both of these are polyester threads, which is perfect for bags. My needle I'm using is a Microtex 8012. It can be a little thick, especially when you're just sewing the quilt cotton. So either a Microtex 7010, 8012, those would both work. Just be careful with the thicker needle, the 8012, with the quilt cotton because it can end up just kind of pushing the fabric down instead of piercing it. And then I have an air racing fabric marker, a stiletto as always, a little sew-in bag tag here, and then a 1" by 6" ruler. So let's walk through the pattern pieces. You have a couple options here. You can make a bunch of little blocks that have like a checkerboard look, or you can do stripes. I'm doing stripes. If you have the kit, you have enough material to do either one. So totally up to you. I just like the stripes because they're really quick. So if you want to do it like I'm doing it, the front and back panel, each panel has 6 strips. So you're going to need a total of 12 of these strips. And then on the top of each one of those, you have like your casing. Now, this is what's going to hold that really cool tool we have in place. We don't have to add any woven interfacing to these pieces here. I'm actually going to kind of quilt them onto the foam. However, the casing does need to have some interfacing applied to it because you do have that metal bar going through it, and it's going to get the most attention. So you're going to need a couple smaller cuts of woven interfacing to go with the casing. All right, from the lining fabric, you're going to have 2 pieces for the interior, and then they're also going to have a couple pieces of woven interfacing. So this is going to be the like little bulk for the interior is that woven interfacing. Optional, but always add a pocket. This is a little slip pocket. It's very, very simple. It's quick. You'll love it. And then where you have the strap connector. Now, the strap connector is optional. You could wear this as a clutch. You do not have to add D-rings to it. Strap connector is a chain. Nothing like that. But you know me. If I can put a strap on something, I'm going to put a strap on it. And then finally, we have our 2 cuts of foam. I do like to cut these bigger than necessary because what I'm going to do is I'm going to build my panel and then I'm going to just kind of quilt it onto the foam and then I'll cut it down to size after that. So the first step is building our panels, which is so much fun because it's like building a little itty bitty quilt. So if you've been interested in quilting and you're like, I don't want to commit, 12 months of work to a project, here you go. This is a baby quilt. So what we're going to do is just lay out our material and figure out how we want this to go. How do we want all these things to line up together? I mean, naturally, you would think it'd be like this, but I'll just do this for a while. Just kind of keep moving things around, see how I like it. I think that will work. So this is how I'm going to lay out the front and back panels. So I'll just separate all these. And if you participated in the OklaRoots block party, which was a 12-month quilt block activity that I hosted on the channel a couple years ago, I'll put a link here if you need to see it. I love scrappy, like super scrappy. The scrappier the better. I don't fussy cut a whole lot. I really, really enjoy scrappy. So this is gonna be my front and back panel. Pretty much what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna sew them all together. So I'm just gonna double them up like this, and I'm gonna start sewing them together at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then as I have like these 2 sets sewn, I'll sew the next set together and the next set. I'll walk you through it. We'll go through this one at a time. So for now, you see how I have them all doubled up. I'm just going to lay them right sides together. I have not added any interfacing or anything like that. You might want to use pins here because pins, since this is such delicate material, pins are a little bit easier to work with when putting these materials together. You can see clips kind of move the material around a lot, make it shift. So a lot of times quilters prefer to use pins instead of those clips. If you're very comfortable sewing things like this, you could honestly not even pin or clip it together. You could just hold them together. They are such small cuts, you can probably keep them lined up. But just remember that woven material without any interfacing on it is stretchy. So you want to be careful not to start really tugging on any of this, because you will stretch out the material and it doesn't always come back to its original shape. All right, now we're gonna take all 6 of these little combos to the sewing machine and we're gonna sew them together at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. You could do a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance, which is just less than a 1/4 inch seam allowance. It's a quilter's thing. We don't really have a whole lot of lines coming together here, so a 1/4 inch seam allowance will be fine. If you'd like, you can backstitch at the beginning and the end of each one of these, especially if we're gonna be flattening this out and doing all kinds of things. It does help hold it all together. Okay, once you have these sewn together, this is the hardest part. Remembering the layout. I always forget the layout. I think the layout changes, that's okay. I'm gonna make it like this. Yeah, that's how we're gonna do it. So you can press these now if you'd like. I just wait until the end because we're not sewing these seams into anything just yet. We're just sewing the long straight edges, so I don't feel I need to press them yet. But relay this out. There we go. And so now I'm going to take the next set. I'm just going to lay them right sides together. And it is nice to pin or clip here just so you remember which pieces go together. Unless you do not care. Unless you're like, this is super scrappy. These are all different. I do not care. It's going to look cool no matter what because the fabric I chose is so good. And if you're working with Tula Peak fabric, that's the truth. It doesn't matter how you lay this out. It's going to look good. All right, so I'm gonna do the same thing over here. Now I'm gonna take these 2 and sew them at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, just like before, just kind of lay it out again. Look how sweet that is. And now I'm gonna attach the left side over here. Just clipping these remaining 2 units together. And now I'm gonna sew these together at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, now that you have them sewn together, it's time to press them. Now the pattern suggests you press these seams open. Let's see, sometimes it can be kind of a burny mess, a finger burning mess to press seams like this open. If you're using vinyl or something like that, then yeah, I would suggest using like a seam roller to press them open. However, with quill cotton, I really don't find that it adds that much bulk to just press the seams to one side. So I'm going to just press these to one side. You can press it to the darker fabric if you want, which is pressing to the dark side. But you see, when I press these seams, this is how I press seams for quilts. I press the seam while it's closed first, and then I open it up, and I gently finger press it while it's warm, and I'm not stretching anything, I'm just gently pressing with my fingers there, and then I place the iron on top of it. Now, yes, I do move my iron. A lot of times people say don't move your iron at all. I do, it's fine. Okay, so then we're gonna just do the same thing. I'm just gonna close it again for the next seam. Press the seam closed, open it up, finger press it, and then press it flat with the seam just going to whichever side. So I'm going to repeat this for all of the seams on both panels. All right, so there are our 2 panels. Those look pretty and they're very easy to put together. So now we're going to grab our foam main panels. Now if you want to use some sort of a spray adhesive here, you definitely can. I don't know if I will. I think I might just leave it without the spray adhesive. Yeah. So I think what I'm going to do for these ones is I am going to first stitch in the ditch, which means I'm going to just use a top stitch length and I'm going to sew right in these seams. So right in that pocket between the 2 pieces of material, I'm just going to sew between all of them and I'm sewing it to the foam. After I'm done with that, then I'm going to go around all 4 outer corners and I'm going to base stitch it in place. So I'm going to do that for both panels for now, and then we'll come back and we can trim this down to size and then base stitch the outer corners. once I have these bows stitched down, so you can see like they're just stitched on their seams, that's it. If you flip it over, this is what it looks like on the back. Once I have these stitched down like this, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna trim this down to the size that the foam is supposed to be. So this is like the same size as the lining interior piece, PC. So now I'm gonna trim this down to get it just to be the right size. All right, now that I have these trimmed down to size, now I'm gonna go around all 4 edges and just base stitch down the sides so that the material is just a little bit more easy to work with as we build the bag. I'm gonna do this at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. How cute are these panels? I know it takes a little bit extra work to do stuff like this, but man, does it look cute. I love it. All right, you can set these to the side. Now let's work on our casing. So take both your pieces of casing fabric if you're using a woven material, and then grab your woven interfacing, and you're gonna center it on the back. There should be a little bit of overhang on the short edges, but no overhang on the long edges. And then grab your iron and just fuse your woven interfacing onto the back of your casing. And then I like to grab a small ruler and a marking tool, and I measure 1 inch in from each short edge, and then take that short edge and fold it wrong side back, so wrong sides together, so the raw short edge meets that mark, that 1 inch mark. So you're folding this back 1/2 of an inch, that's what you're doing. And then just press it with your iron. So do this for all 4 short edges. All right, once these are nice and prepped, we're going to top stitch along these short folded edges at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Do this for all 4 of them. So it's just holding that 1/2 of an inch fold over back. So once these are top stitched, I'm gonna enlist the help of my iron again. And we're gonna fold the long edges wrong sides together, long sides together. And then I'm gonna use my iron to press along that fold just to help hold it in place. So do this for both of your casing pieces. Now grab your 2 casing pieces and your 2 main panels, and let's mark the midpoint on the top of each main panel, and then mark the midpoint also on the bottom raw edge of each casing. Now take one of your main panels and lay it right side up, and then take your casing, and if you have like a directional print or something on your casing and you wanna make sure that when it's upright, it's like this, like I did another one that had words on it, and I wanna make sure the words weren't upside down. Think about that now, because you're gonna put it right side down. And then match up the midpoint marks with the casing and the top edge of your main panel. Grab some clips and just clip these together. The casing does not reach all the way to the edges, so that's why we have to mark those midpoints. So repeat this with the other main panel and casing. So now let's go top stitch these casing pieces to the exterior main panels at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, and if you have like a little handmade tag or a metal bad tag or anything like that that you want to add, go ahead and do that now. Just center it and just put it, you know, like 2 inches or 1.5 inches up from the bottom edge. This doesn't have a gusset or anything, and it's not going to be boxed, so you're not going to lose anything on the bottom. This is like the full panel. We're just going to round the corners later. You can set these to the side now. Okay, so now I'm going to make the lining slip pocket. So take your little rectangle here and the 2 longer edges, pull them right sides together to meet. And we don't need to press it just yet. So we're going to just clip along all 3 raw edges as they're all matched up. And I'm going to grab my ruler and a marking tool, and I'm going to measure and mark a little 3-inch opening on the long raw edge here, right in the center. Now what we're going to do is we're going to sew along the 3 raw edges at a 1/4 inch seam allowance, making sure you backstitch at the beginning and the end, and making sure you stop at these marks. So do not sew between them. So backstitch at each one of these marks, just skip over it. Sew around all 3 edges. Then once you have it sewn together, just gently clip all 4 corners, like little triangles, off. This is just going to help so that we can poke out those corners without bulk there. And now turn this pocket right side out through that hole that you left gently. Remember, this is just quilt cotton here, and you can use whatever you want. You can use another material, you can use interfacing on this if you'd like. But as you turn it out, I like to grab a turning tool, and nothing too sharp, because especially with quilt cotton, it's very easy to just push this too hard and poke a hole right in those corners, and then it looks kind of a mess then. So very, very gently poke out all 4 of those corners. And then after we have them all poked out, I like to just kind of roll the seams to flatten them out. And I just do 1 seam at a time, just kind of straighten out with my fingers, and then I'll grab my iron and press, and then I'll do the same thing on the other side. I used to always struggle with these types of pockets because I tried to press the whole thing at once and then it just never came out as a rectangle. And even now, it still comes out as a pretty wonky rectangle, but it does look a lot better once I started just doing one edge at a time. And then down here on the bottom, you still have that opening. So just try to roll out this seam and get this as lined up as you can. Also remember, this is not noticeable. So if this isn't a perfectly straight line, if it bows a little bit, if it's a little wavy, a little wonky, that's gonna be fine. Then give that a nice press. All right, once you have this nice and flat, we're gonna take this to the sewing machine and we're gonna top stitch along the folded edge at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, now before we attach this pocket, if you haven't already, go ahead and apply your woven interfacing to your lining main panels. I just forgot to do that in the beginning, but make sure you get these applied and you'll notice they are the same size. So grab one of your main lining panels that has the interfacing on it and mark a midpoint on the very top edge, and then fold your slip pocket in half and mark a midpoint on the top folded edge. I like to use an air erasing marker or even just a pin for that. It's a very temporary mark we're using. And then measure down 2 inches from the top edge, keeping everything centered, and grab some tape. I'm gonna use washi tape for this. You just wanna keep this pocket in place before you take it to the sewing machine. And then a little extra fun I like to add, so we still have this opening here on the bottom, right? So that's the opening that's actually in that pocket. I like to add one of these little woven labels right inside there. So it's not underneath both layers of the pocket. It's actually tucked into that opening that we left, just like that. So now we're gonna go to the sewing machine and we're going to top stitch along the sides and the bottom at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Make sure you back stitch up here at the beginning and the end. All right, see? Easy, easy slip pocket. Now let's work on these little strap connectors. So take your strap connector cut and fold it long sides together, wrong sides together, and just press it along that fold. And then you can open this up and then refold those long edges to meet that center fold and press again. And you're gonna do this for both long raw edges. And then fold the whole unit in half like a hot dog bun. And then you can press it again just to get it nice and flat. Now take this folded strap connector piece and top stitch along both long edges at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now take this long piece and fold it in half, lining up those short edges. And then grab some scissors and just cut it right at that fold. You know, I forgot to mention so many things in the beginning of this video. I'm using double-sided tape for this. It's very handy. So take your strap connector and thread it through one of your D-rings. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna fold the short raw edge over so that it meets about halfway on the back. You can measure and have a line. It just needs to meet somewhere on the back like this, because then you're gonna take your bottom longer raw edge here with the little short bit and fold that back as well, so that both short raw edges are on the back side, and on the front it looks nice and seamless. To help hold this in place, I like to use tape. So I'm just gonna cut off a very small, maybe 1/2 inch piece of double-sided tape. And this is a washable double-sided tape, which means I can sew over it easily. So you see, I just put it right there on the center, remove the paper, wrap the short edge that's by the D-ring first, just to make sure I have it far enough down, and then wrap the other one up. There we go. And I'm gonna grab another piece of double-sided tape, again, just about like a 1/2 inch cut, and I'm gonna put it right over those 2 raw edges on the back side. And now you're gonna repeat this with the other D-ring and strap connector. Now grab your 2 main lining panels and then grab your 2 strap connectors. And we're going to install these actually on the lining, which is really cool. Trust me, it works. Make sure your lining panels are right side up before you do this. So grab one of your lining panels and you're gonna measure down 1 inch from the top and 1 inch from the left edge, and we're going to sew the strap connector down just like that. So I'm gonna grab a small ruler, and it's just 1 inch down from the top and 1 inch from the left. Make sure it's from the left. Remove the paper from the tape, and I'm going to line up the top left corner of my strap connector with that corner at the 1 inch mark. There we go. So that's where that one goes. And now grab your other lining panel in exactly the same on the top left corner, because when they flip together, they'll be on opposite corners. So on the remaining lining panel, do the same thing. 1 inch from the top, 1 inch from the left. Remove the paper from your strap connector. Make sure your D-ring is facing up towards the top of the panel. Make sure your pocket is at the top of the panel too. And now we're going to take both of these panels to the sewing machine, and we're going to top stitch along the edges and just below the D-ring at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So now we need to round the corners on our 2 exterior pieces and our 2 lining pieces. And to do that, you can use a spool thread. I have this tool here. It's the 1, 2, 3, 4 tool that we have in the shop. I'm going to use the 2-inch corner for this. So I'm just going to grab my lining cut, take my 2-inch corner, and line up the straight edges with the straight edges on the left and the bottom. And then I'm just going to use a marking tool to trace that corner. And I'll do this for the bottom right corner as well. And so just repeat this for your other lining panel and your 2 exterior panels. And then once you have all those little curves marked, you can just grab your scissors and trace your markings. So now grab your front and back panel and lay them right sides together, aligning all the edges. Grab some clips. Let's clip along the sides and the bottom. Now let's sew along the sides and the bottom at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Make sure you backstitch at the top, at the beginning, and the end. Once you have that sewn, then grab your 2 lining panels and lay them right sides together as well, lining up the sides and the bottom edges, and clip together. Now grab a ruler and mark a 4-inch space on the bottom center of your lining panels, just like that. We will have to leave an opening to turn this right side out. So now what we're going to do is at the top here, I'm going to sew at a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then I'm going to increase my seam allowance to a 1/2 inch as I go down to the bottom. I'm not going to sew between these 2 marks, so once I get to the mark, I'm going to backstitch, jump over it, backstitch, and continue on, and then again decreasing down to a 1/4 inch seam allowance as I get to the other end. Make sure you backstitch at the tops as well. Now once you have the lining sewn, you can trim down the seam allowance. I just kind of trim it in half. Just don't trim where the opening is on the bottom. So just trim along the stitches, and once you get to your marks, just trim into the scraps like that. Do the same thing on the other side. You want to leave that nice and long down here. It'll make it easier when you close the hole in the end. Now turn your lining right side out, and then insert this into the exterior so that the exterior and the lining are now right sides together. And then line up the seams on the side so that they come together. Grab some clips and clip them together. And do the same thing on the other side. Make sure you push your little D-ring out of the way and that your little casing here is facing down. If you want to open your seam allowances, you can. You want to press them open, you can. If you just want to fold them in opposite directions, which is what I tend to do, you can do that too. And then line up the top edge of your bag. This is easiest if you do have midpoint marks on the top. You can line those up first. And just go around, kind of straightening it out, and then clipping together. Now let's go to the sewing machine and sew along this top clipped edge at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now, using that hole left in the lining, gently pull your bag through that hole. And it is a smaller sized hole, but the bag, if you didn't use any vinyl or cork or anything like that, if you just use quilt cotton like I did, the bag is pretty soft, pretty easy to manipulate. Now get in there and poke out the corners of your exterior. Such a cute, cute, cute bag. And now push in the lining. Getting nice and flat along the top edge here. If you want to run an iron over this real quick, you are more than welcome to do that, but make sure you pull the casing up and push the lining in. Get everything as flat as possible. All right, once you have this all flattened out, now what we're going to do is we're going to top stitch just below the seam between the top panel and the casing. So all along the entire bag, below this top seam, at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Alright, I know it needs a press, we'll get to that. But once you have that top stitch, now all we want to do is just close the lining. So pull up the lining, so you're looking at that little hole. And what I do is I just push my fingers into the corners here, and the lining raw edges just naturally go in on themselves. You don't have to measure anything here, you don't have to be terribly precise. We just need it to be closed, that's all. So I'm going to use clips here, and I'm just going to top stitch along this folded opening at an 1/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, now push the lining back in there, and if you want, you can give it a gentle press. If you're using foam like I am, you can just put your hand in there. Don't leave it there for too long, but it's pretty easy to press with the foam in there. So I'm just gonna go all along the outside. This looks so pretty. All right, now the fun part, this hardware, because now we have this super cute little bag, but it, you know, it stays open. And you're like, but I need a zipper. But you don't, because we've got this thing here. So what you do with this is you're gonna open it up, see? And this is so easy. You're just gonna slide one edge, so one of these ends, into the casing on the front, and the other end into the casing on the back. And this is even easier than a drawstring. And then just push this all the way in, and then push both edges out. And I don't know if you can see, but there are like these little prongs, these little nubs. You just stack them up on each other so that they come together like that. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you'll notice too that there's like a little half circle on the top and a little half circle on the bottom. That's important. So I'm gonna use a clip here to keep that together. And then I'm gonna go grab that teeny tiny little rod, which I said be careful not to lose. Because then what you do is you just insert this little rod. There's a hole in the top of these 4 prongs that come together. Just push it all the way through all 4 of them, and then just push down the top half circle and push in the bottom half circle. And those are going to just encase that rod. So now, see, it stays closed. Isn't that so cool? And now let's go through the long process of making our strap. Oh wait, no. It's so easy. We don't have to make a strap. So what you want to do is you want to open this up, and the strap is going to go through the sides over here. So not inside, so the casing, you know, hardware doesn't wrap around it. The strap goes into the little opening on the side over here. And then open this up and clip it onto your D-ring. And then do the same thing on the other side. Again, making sure it goes through the opening on the side here, not inside the hardware. And then clip that onto your D-ring. And look at this. Look at how cute this is. So simple, so beginner friendly. Such a cool tool that you can use in a lot of other patterns, a lot of other bags, and your own ideas. I mean, and you can have so much fun with this. You can just really get creative with how you piece these pieces together. You can make any kind of quilt block you want here, and then just trace out this shape. I mean, this is adorable. I hope you guys love this. I really do, because this is a really fun one. All right, guys, so what did you think? It is quick, isn't it? And it's like a mini quilt. I think it's even soft. Like it's like a little mini quilt pillow, but also a clutch, a bag. I see this as a great like going out bag. Like you're going to a holiday party, a New Year's Eve party, something like that. Just going out to dinner and you don't need a whole lot of stuff. Maybe it's date night, things like that. Also, I think this would be really great for teenagers, because I mean, really, how much stuff do they have to carry? You know, like this is a great teenage bag, college bag. Again, I would wear this in college. Or high school. I would have worn it in high school too. And I'll wear it now because it's adorable, but I'm the bag lady, so of course I'll wear it. So I hope you love making this as much as I do. It is so fun. If you have anybody who's just starting out sewing, I would recommend this pattern to them. Maybe you have a teenager who is starting to sew and they're interested in making like their own cool bag to wear. This would be a great way for them to kind of dive into sewing easily, but also make something that's very customized to help them express themselves. I think this is a great pattern for a lot of people. I'm really excited about this. I hope you're having a great day. Have a fantastic rest of your week. Get out there and make something. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for watching today's tutorial. I hope that you are inspired to go make something and have a lot of fun with these patterns. If you're not already subscribed, please make sure you click subscribe down below. Also make sure you hit that little bell, the little notification bell. That's gonna make sure you're notified every single time we have a new video or when we go live. For even more fun content from OklaRoots, make sure you're following us on Facebook and Instagram. We do daily stories over there, which include unboxing, talks about books, other little mini tutorials, lots and lots of discussion over all kinds of things going on. You can also find us on TikTok and also on Reels for even more fun, kind of more random content. And if you really want to dive in, for some behind the scenes content, free gifts, access to shop items before anybody else, and influence on upcoming videos, make sure you go check out OklaRoots over on Patreon. We have a lot going on over there, and it's a fun place to hang out, and you are directly supporting the OklaRoots YouTube channel. These videos could not be possible without the help of my patrons, so thank you so much to everybody over there. Thank you again for watching today's tutorial. I hope you enjoy the videos. Go make something.